Good evening, friends. Yet another episode of Through Literary Lens. Vinod ji, namaskar.
Namaskar. And once again, we will discuss about a very celebrated, a very famous story by Mulkraj Anand. We had already had a discussion on Mulkraj Anand's The Untouchable.
Yes, and this time I think it is the microcosm, and the untouchable was the macrocosm. On the larger scale, it portrayed the experiences of untouchability and possible way outs, and it continues to be relevant to this day. So does this very short story named Barbers Trade Union.
Right. This story is a story of Chandu, who is barber himself and son of a barber.
Apparently belongs to the low caste in the caste system.
Yes. And in the beginning of the poem, in the beginning of the story,
Well,
this,
Vinanji, you called it a poem. I congratulate Mulkraj Anand for that.
yeah, because some of its passages
Yeah.
read like poetry,
Yeah. And the underlying feeling,
underlying feeling
motive is really poetic.
yes, and we are really taken aback when he
Yeah.
says that Chandu,
Yeah.
a son of a barber, occupies a significant place among the makers of India. The
Modern
place,
India.
the
Yeah.
place perhaps would be denied to him by many.
This very important statement, friends. When we think of makers of modern India, we think of Mahatma Gandhi, we think of Jawaharlal Nehru, Patel, Ambedkar, Sarojini Naidu, and whatnot.
Exactly.
But then India is not simply the result of the efforts of the great people.
And when Mulkraj Anand says a Barobar boy Chandu occupies a significant place among the makers of India, this makes this story altogether different. It takes it to a next level, and we are compelled to understand why this statement comes from the writer.
Yeah.
What is special about Chandu, what he has done, and how he deserves this place.
Chandu, being a barber, whatever he does throughout the story to transform the social position of his group, of his caste, that in itself plays a very vital role in transforming the landscape of India.
Initial paragraphs tell us about life of Chandu. His father was dead when he was a child, and therefore he could not continue his education beyond fifth primary class.
Yeah. But he had learned the tricks of the trade from him, how to shave and cut the hair, and even the treat pimples and all that.
So in the morning, he goes to the houses of the rich and the well-known people to shave them and cut their hair, and then he travels to the nearby town, traveling on the footrest of the carriage of Lala Hukumchand, who is a lawyer in the district court.
Now, this gives you an idea of the status of this boy, that he was on the lowest rungs of the caste system.
Lala Hukumchand would not allow him to sit beside him in the carriage.
And all these rich people took him for granted that he would come to their house and shave their beard and cut their hair.
Right, and while sitting in the courtyard of the district, he would talk and see various people, police walas, chaprasis, and one doctor, dentist,
Yes.
with whom he was specially associated. He was really impressed by the look and appearance of this dentist.
And one fine day, the fancy takes him that why should he not also don the attire of the doctor? Because in his own way, he is also a doctor.
Yeah, because he says, I know
Yeah.
how to treat pimples, cuts, and bruises on the face of a person.
But this childish fantasy of his
Yes.
is not at all well taken by the rich and the privileged, and he is made to see his place in the society.
Yes, one day, dressed up in the clothes of a doctor, he asks the narrator to accompany him to the house of landlord.
And then the reaction they give him, they simply shoo him away.
They
From
simply
there.
abuse him in
Yeah.
the foulest way and ask him to immediately vacate the house because by his presence, according to them, he has defiled their house. And as he has put on the clothes of the doctor, he cannot touch their beards.
Narrator says, when I can put it, then they tell him that you are of the higher caste. But this fellow of the lower caste dare not do such pranks.
So here we are surprised that if Chandu has put on the clothes of a doctor, why he should not be allowed to practice his trade of barber? Here we need to understand that why these lower classes were exploited for the centuries, because they had found out a trick. They had said that they should be barred from all the refinements of life. They should not be allowed to put on good clothes. They should not go to the market. They should not get education, because there was a psychological fear. Today, if Barbara Boy puts on good clothes, tomorrow he will go to the school. The next day, he will do all those things that high caste people are allowed to do.
It's all summed up in a very simple statement I heard in the modern days, Vinodji.
Yes.
It was written in a story. If this boy is also well educated, who would drive my car?
Exactly. So even today, somehow we keep majority of not going to sit silently. He's not going to mutely accept all these humiliations and insults, because not only the landlord, from there he goes to the house of a sahukar who has already been informed about this Chandu's new trick.
Yes.
And he also abuses him. And Pandit Paramanand emerges from the house of landlord, and he asks Chandu to go back, as he brings a bad name to his father and mother.
So this, oppressive caste system, then Chandu resolves to at least better his fortune. Thereby, unconsciously, he will be transforming the caste system also.
Chandu realizes
Yes.
that the root cause of his exploitation does not lie in the fact that he belongs to the caste of Barbers, but the root cause of the problem is he is economically dependent on these high caste people. He is dependent for his earning on these people. If he is able to find out a way whereby he can earn without being dependent on them, perhaps that will be the escape from this exploitation.
Yes. Then he does two things simultaneously. Number one, personally, he launches a strike.
Yes.
He doesn't go to their homes. He doesn't announce it with fanfare, but simply he tells the narrator, "You will see on the third day. I will tell you what happened. Only a barber can know this secret." He
Yes.
says. And then he purchases a cycle.
And before that, he asks the narrator on the third or fourth day to see the shabby appearances of the elders of the village. And both these boys, Chandu and the narrator, they shout at them and they laugh at them, and they feel so humiliated that they shout, catch this barber boy." But by this time, both the boys climb up the banyan tree, and from there they jump on the temple wall, and again they shout, "Bears." So in a very novel way, Chandu takes a revenge for his insults, for his humiliating behavior.
And cycle is the symbol of mobility. In 5 rupees, he purchases the cycle, learns to ride it, falls down, again learns to ride it. People mock him. They break your bones. You can't really do it. But he persists. And with this perseverance, he finally can ride the cycle. And this allows him to go to the town at will and earn.
Now he is no longer dependent on Lala Hukumchand's carriage to go to town and come back. So this is the beginning of freedom. Once you acquire social freedom, only then you will be able to transform your situation on the economic front. And here we are reminded of great social reformer Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who could understand the importance of education and importance of economic development for the depressed classes.
Yes, and he gave the slogan, educate, organize, and agitate.
Meanwhile, these village elders are finding themselves in a very difficult situation. Their beards have become long. There is nobody to cut their hair. Even the barbers from the other villages have refused to come.
First of all, they call them, paying them more. They intend to call them. As soon as Chandu realizes this, he forms a union.
Yes.
He calls the barbers, he tells them, and all of them combined together, and this Rajkot district Barber Brothers hair shaving and cutting saloon
Uh,
comes into
yes,
existence.
and by this time, the Chandu has got a new idea. He has
Yeah,
set up a shop at
yeah.
the end of the bazaar. Now, instead of Chandu going to the houses of the village elders, now those who required his services were compelled to come to his shop.
The,
So this is altogether a new
yeah,
approach.
there's a paradigm shift. And then this also entire story of Chandu symbolizes the transformation which is still happening in the Indian society about this caste system. Economic empowerment of the downtrodden can definitely push them forward in the social hierarchy.
So Chandu is a pioneer in many ways. In the first place, in the realization that the root cause is not his social backwardness, but it is economic backwardness. Secondly, he realizes the strength of organization. He
Yes,
organizes all the barbers who dwell in the 7 miles from his village and forms the union. So, if at all the economic and social position of the downtrodden is to transform, we have to realize this mantra of Chandu.
and this all by analogy it applies to any oppressed class, any depressed class, including the blacks in the West. This
Yes.
scourge of racism
Yes.
also can be combated, confronted in the same manner. The economic empowerment, the social empowerment of the downtrodden, and in this way this is a very pioneering situation, pioneering story, but it is told in a very entertaining way without any semblance of propaganda.
Mulkraj Anand is a true artist. Though he is a committed writer, he is aware of the problems of the society, and his writings also indicate the possible solutions. His characters are not simply the passive characters, but they embody the spirit of change, spirit of transformation, and the spirit of boldness and courage. And Chandu is one of very important characters in his entire writings.
Definitely, so you would do well to read it for yourself and enjoy and imbibe the story, friends. So we'll be back with some
Other
yet
discussion.
another discussion.
Till that time, we are waiting for your comments. Take care.
Namaskar.